All right, folks, it's good to be back. This is the Paul Harrell program. We're going to talk, I don't know, what are we talking about today? I am out of it after a dental procedure, a 3-hour dental procedure yesterday.
3-hour tour.
Missing a tooth now. Maybe we'll get into that. Epstein, though, is still in the news. Speaker Johnson saying, hey, some of these files need to be redacted for national security. So what does that prove? Does that prove anything? Does that prove that Epstein... if he's involved with national security, then he's involved with nation states. Here's the deal. Was Jeffrey Epstein and the cabal he represented essentially their own sovereign government? That's the only conclusion that I can come to at this point. When you look at the different global intelligence agencies he's accused of working with, working for, working against, who knows? But we'll get into all of that, plus a lot more. Show starts now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are missing Rob Spencer, but we do have Eric with us. Eric, sir, welcome back.
Good to be part of the conversation.
So I want to start by just thanking you and Rob for doing the show yesterday solo while I was on the way back home from my dental procedure. So
it was an adventure.
Yeah. Was it an adventure?
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Rob did a great job.
He did a great
learning a very complex piece of software in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, Rob, if you're listening, thank you. I know I've already said thank you, but thank you a million times over. So, I had a tooth pulled, and so now I'm trying to figure out how to talk properly. You guys probably can't, or I hope you can't notice it, but I certainly noticed that I no longer have a tooth in my mouth. Some of you might have known that I've interviewed Anita Tibau several times. I know several times on the Ex American News platform. She is I guess she's in a key part of the Maha movement. You know, the Republican Party's a coalition. The Maha movement is also a coalition where you have, people who maybe are more about like the food is the problem, chemicals and dyes. Then you've got other people in the Maha movement that are like, no, it's the medical industrial complex, it's pharma, it's their drugs, it's that sort of thing. But even there are levels to that as well. And so Anita specializes in trying to bring awareness. She was even speaking at the United Nations a couple of weeks ago. I think I was just talking to her because of my situation, because she's in the dental, I'll call it the dental truth movement, where she's trying to raise awareness about the dangers of modern dentistry versus maybe like biological holistic dentistry. So things like mercury still being used, amalgamation, mercury still being used, and the dangers of root canals and things like that. So I decided after a lot of research, and I'm just going to share way too much information, and we'll see if I get better or not. But I've just over the last, couple of years, I just have on and off again brain fog, ear pressure, dizziness, and I have charted it. I think I charted it all the way back to when I had a root canal, and so I went to a special dentist several hours away from where I live yesterday, and had all of that stuff removed. I even had mercury fillings that I didn't even know I had because they were hidden. Got those removed and everything else. So really just trying to see if that makes these symptoms go away. And I'll keep you posted. And I will say this, Eric, if that in fact does work for me, I will be going on the warpath trying to get this information to as many people as I possibly can. So,
modern medicine has certainly come a long way, not only in the dental community, but in all areas of healthcare. And it's great to see innovation and evidence-based medicine studies that come out and help people make the right path for them and their healthcare. So, yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just here's hoping that was part of the problem. People talk about maybe it was long COVID or anything else. I don't. I have no idea, but this is the path that I chose, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, that enough about me, but that's why I was absent. So yesterday on the show, what did you guys talk about? I watched most of it, but it was about Epstein, right? We're still talking about Epstein.
We had a good objective conversation about what was happening yesterday, and now we'll continue that today. We also talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene and the situation going on, and kind of just certain rifts that frustrate us about what's going on in the Republican Party in certain areas. We've got different conservative commentators and news media that are a little bit of infighting. I think we're just hoping that we can all come together and that everybody can come together and be very transparent about everything, and that the MAGA movement and all of those things that Trump was so transparent about during his campaign, and so much of the communication, the way he communicates, is that all that can be done to bring our country forward every day.
Yeah. So, the Epstein saga has been the low point for Trump's first year. I think that's 100%. I don't even think it's debatable. I think that was the low point. And we're seeing what could be a course correct. Well, I think it very much is a course correction.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's still a lot of questions.
Yeah.
A lot of questions. But here's that course correction playing out in real time. This is Pam Bondi explaining herself. She gets kind of a tough question here, like, "Hey, I thought there was nothing else.
Yeah,
I thought there was nothing else to do with the Epstein files." That's what you said. There was that memo that was leaked to Axios, remember, where they were like, "Hey, the third parties, there really are no third parties involved. It was just Epstein and Ghislaine." And so, they put that memo out, that unsigned memo, and that was the beginning of, hey, oh my gosh, we had phase one, we had binders to the conservative influencers, and it was labeled phase one. It was a bunch of information people already had. And so this is Pam Bondi singing a slightly different tune. Listen.
Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
New information.
Yeah.
Additional information. Breaking information. I mean, how many synonyms could we use for new, additional, extra? I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence. I need your optimism, Eric, because I don't have a lot of confidence in that.
Well, I kind of saw her as Officer Barbrady from South Park when a lot of the information first came out, and she first had the opportunity to start to be transparent about things, and it was very much, the messaging coming out was, "Move along, nothing to see here. Everybody move along." And nobody was buying that. And we're very, very clear about the messaging during the campaign that one of the things that really united conservatives is that this issue would come to light, because it had been completely ignored for 4 years under the Biden administration. And we knew that if they had anything then that would have been some major smoking gun, silver bullet for the President, Trump, that would have implicated him, that they would have brought that forward over the last 4 years. And they definitely did not. And so her initial messaging from the DOJ just did not sit well at all. There was no way there was going to be there's no there for us as regular, objective Americans that want information. And we don't want information because it has things to do with just President Trump and politics. We want information because we want predators, and we want the survivors who are now still dealing with the effects of years of abuse and trafficking. We want those people brought to justice. And that was not, that initial messaging was like, wait a minute, so now nobody's going to go to jail? nobody's gonna go out in handcuffs. Like, are you serious? That cannot be right. And so, I'm glad to see this. This is why I take a wait and see approach to a lot of things. And I'm glad that now the Trump administration has obviously gotten the message that first round of communications
gaslighting.
There's no there was not gonna fly.
Yeah, it was gaslighting, and I think voter turnout. I think it hurt Trump's approval rating.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 months, I think it hurts Republican enthusiasm, and I think, as a matter of fact, there's even polls that are showing that. So they're getting another bite at this apple, but they've got to get it right this time too, or they're going to give the Democrats essentially an unlimited amount of information. Even though the Democrats are now being implicated in all of this, they're going to give, again, the strategy from the Dems is let's make everyone seem like they're corrupt so that nobody cares, so that it doesn't matter, okay?
Well, and now as Comer and Jim Jordan and others have come to the floor and said, it's like, okay, well, you wanted this, Democrats. Now you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Here it comes. And Hakeem Jeffries is implicated, and Representative Blaskett is implicated in things, and all these things from the initial batch is all coming to light, and Democrats' names are on those files, and it's clear that Jeffrey Epstein was a Democrat. He gave money to Democrats. He was invited by Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, to come to dinner and give money. So this is buckle up, because he gave $0 to Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we also have the congressional testimony where they're interviewing Trump's old lawyer, Michael Cohen, and, Epstein's texting the Virgin Islands Congress lady questions. We have that clip coming up, to your point. But this is what I mean. This is the caution, though, about unlimited ammunition. So Trump is saying, these people need it. He's named names. He wants people investigated for their associations with Jeffrey Epstein. So now people are worried. Attorney Robert Barnes is worried. Bondi got this question. Listen.
The issue with the new information that you just indicated, is the department seeking information perhaps from the Epstein estate, because Mr. Blanche did not have that information when he interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell? What new information, and would you limit the new investigation to just those named persons that the president talked about, or is this a broad, open-ended investigation?
I would refer to the Deputy Attorney General's post that he put out on X, and we're not going to say anything else on that, because now it is a pending investigation in the Southern District of New York. But you're on point.
So it's this verbiage that have people rightfully concerned. Robert Barnes saying, as predicted, they would use the referral to the SDNY to extend the cover-up. SDNY is where you turn prosecution into cover-up. They excel at it. So there's a lot of people worried now that there's an open investigation. When it comes to declassifying the Epstein files in 30 days, because the law's been, passed the House, it passed the Senate, people are now saying, will the Justice Department, under Pam Bondi's leadership, will they somehow be able to statutorily, legally, redact stuff from the files that they do release in the next, in 30 days' time? Because now there's a pending investigation.
Yeah.
And if that is what happens, if that occurs, and that's the official reasoning behind it, they've once again squandered a golden opportunity to put this to bed and just let the chips fall where they may, expose whoever you're going to expose Republican donors, expose Democrat donors, just expose it all. And if you don't, guess what? You're literally handing the left the bullets, and the media the bullets that they're going to use against you. So can we quit giving the enemy their ammunition that they're going to turn right around and use against us?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have every right to be concerned. We want to be hopeful, but no one's going to be giving up on this. This Epstein will be brought up now at every press gaggle, at every opportunity, at every Oval Office sit-in, at every time Pam Bondi and Kash Patel step up to the microphone, they will be asked. So as you said correctly, the best thing to do is just unload and let everybody let the chips fall as they need to.
Some of the chips that have already fallen is former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has now resigned from OpenAI. He was on the board, and Harvard, the university that he teaches at, is now investigating him because he's in the Epstein files. This from Zero Hedge. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has resigned from the board of OpenAI following the release of messages in which Summers was asking Jeffrey Epstein for dating advice to try to bed a female whose father was a former CCP official. On Monday, Summers announced that he would be stepping back from all public commitments. Not only that, he went on to. Can you imagine being a Harvard student and your professor is Larry Summers and he opens the class like this?
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activities for a time, but I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations. And so, with your permission, we're going to go forward and talk about the material in the class.
So he's going to say, so basically, so here's the deal. Like, how many more Larry Summers are there that we don't know about yet? And how serious is it? I mean, I haven't looked at all of the emails, but in this particular one, okay, Larry Summers is trying to figure out, you know, hey, I want to have relations with this person. Epstein, give me some tips. You know, be my wingman. Okay, that's not necessarily anything illegal. I mean, he may have done stuff illegal, but at the bare minimum, that's embarrassing. So how many more Larry Summers are there out there? And is that the reason why we've had the Trump administration fumbling the ball this year on the issue? Or is it much, much worse? I mean, there's even emails where, and I saw this reported, I haven't seen it myself, but there's emails allegedly where, you know, Epstein is somehow negotiating a peace deal in in Yemen. And you just think to yourself, okay, so it's not just a blackmail scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, you might even think that the whole sexcapades and underage stuff was more like a hobby. And, you know, it could be where he's really negotiating. And I know Daryl Cooper talked about this on Tucker Carlson's show, where he did a whole deep dive into Epstein and how he's involved in finance. We now know that he was in the early stages of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all encompassing. That's why I said at the top of the show, it's almost like Epstein was a government all into himself, and where he worked with intelligence agencies for them, against them, like the ultimate group hopper, CIA, Mossad, French intelligence, just everywhere. Just somehow a comic book level James Bond villain kingpin, where he's involved in everything.
Yeah, we're in our silos of our little communities and we're in our lanes here in Northeast Arkansas or this region, and you compare that to these folks like Epstein that reach a level of wealth and power and influence to where they're sitting there texting with U.S. representatives during a hearing to feed them questions, or they're getting questions from a former Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton about how to be Rico Suave to young girls that they're wanting to go after. I mean, it's just it's wild how much or how many branches this thing is going to have. Yeah. Once it all comes out.
I've texted legislators before while they're in the middle. This was back when I was covering Arkansas politics a lot closer. I was at the Capitol in Little Rock. I was in the gallery, and I had relationships. I had good relationships. I had contentious relationships, but I would text legislators while they were legislating. So it's not uncommon. I mean, I was just a journalist that. I mean, you could call me an activist too. I mean, that's what I was. But yeah, I mean, there were times when I texted this one. I don't remember what the bill was, but it was a bad bill. And so I'm texting this guy. He's on the Senate floor, and I text him all the reasons why he's making a mistake, and then he texted me back, and throwing bombs at me, and saying anyway. My point is I mean, that happens. I mean, I know I'm not the only one that ever did that in the history of Arkansas state politics.
Well, you weren't a convicted sex offender.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a convicted sex offender.
I mean,
they weren't.
That had already happened. It's not like this was all who knew who Epstein was. Everybody knew.
Oh man,
it's gross.
Before we get to this piece, let's go ahead and get right to that. That's Jim Jordan. Hang on. This is it. This is the Washington Post newly released documents from Jeffrey Epstein estate show that he appeared to be texting a member of Congress during a congressional hearing investigating Donald Trump, and that those texts may have influenced the lawmakers' questions. Now, this was them trying to essentially set up Donald Trump again,
right?
Frame him with associations with Epstein. Listen. Let's see. Do we have to skip through? Yeah, hang on. So it's Plaskett. It's Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. So, she doesn't really have a vote per se. Let's skip to the actual video. Where is it? Here we go.
President of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, he commented that only black people could live that way. Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
You, as my friend Mr. Meadows pointed out, misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony.
Goodness.
You have suggested you are going to review that. Are you going to review it in our next break to correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Question, you helped out the president's campaign or were involved in the campaign.
So
as
she's
a
wanting to know, what do I need to ask
him,
him, Jeffrey?
Today, it was your idea for the campaign
I'm up next
dating back
for questioning.
to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump Organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
Uh-huh.
The
You got to
Trump
quickly give us
Organization.
as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
As Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot that went on.
Good work. Jeffrey Epstein responds to that line of questioning, good work, because, she was working for Jeffrey Epstein, essentially. She was doing his bidding. Now, the spin on this, now that this is all come out, is quite hilarious. Here is Plackett defending herself. Listen.
And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me. Now, I heard recently, and I got a text.
Okay, so
You see who the lady is in the
who
light,
at the time
light blue?
was my constituent.
Remember her?
no, who is she?
She's the one that got in the fight with the ICE officer outside
Oh,
of
that's
the detention
right.
center.
Yeah,
and,
that is her.
And yeah,
So the problem is
got
that
into a pushing match.
obviously she's lying here. It was, he said, Greg Price. It was, however, a full 11 years after he was first arrested for child sex crimes. Now, of course,
my constituent.
the attorney that gave him that sweetheart deal was Alex Acosta. Acosta abruptly resigned from Trump 1.0. He was the labor secretary or housing or something. And according to the Miami news sources, the reason Jeffrey Epstein got the sweetheart plea deal is because Acosta said that I was told he was intelligence. And then, of course, he was questioned on, did you really say that? And he didn't confirm or deny that he said that. So that's where, going back all those years ago, that's where it first started. Hey, this is a protected asset. This is a guy that serves a purpose, basically a Hugh Hefner 2.0 type, where we, can ensnare people with statutory crimes and use it as blackmail. And But she's saying here, but I, this was before he was under investigation, and that's clearly a lie. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but kudos to CNN for calling her out on it. Here's an interview with CNN and Blasket.
I believe that Jeffrey Epstein had information, and I was going to get information to get at the truth. Having a friendship with him is not something that I would deem to have. And so I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that that's what we as American people should do, is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise or his financial enterprise or all of those things, I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes, and as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can. I believe.
Wait, so let me get this straight.
He was a known sex offender. Yeah, a lot of people done a lot of crimes, Honestly, with the way the Democrats treat scandal and controversy, Delegate Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands has a bright future ahead of her now that she's been caught in this, moral quagmire.
Yeah, there's a lot of criminals out there. And sex offenders do not text or should not be texting representatives in the middle of a congressional hearing to feed them questions.
It just lets you know that,
it's gross.
They all knew, and it lets you know how powerful he was.
Yes.
And that people were just okay with that. Like they don't really care. It's about power. He's a powerful guy. He got the sweetheart deal because he's powerful. He still has a lot of influence. He's got a lot of money. And so, he's literally directing a member of Congress to, ask questions of Michael Cohen trying to box Trump in. Mm-hmm. And, this is, we would be, I know she's been singled out because she's been caught, in this act, but this is not just isolated. This is everything. This is everywhere. This goes to Republicans too. There's no way it doesn't. And
enough Republicans voted last night not to censure her for that. And 3 Republican representatives and some present-only votes kept her from being censured for this. And so they protect their own.
Yeah, well, and to my point, that one of the reasons they did that, allegedly, is because Congressman Corey Mills out of Florida was going to be censured, and they were going to launch an ethics investigation because, apparently he's got a lot of ex-girlfriends, and one of them got a restraining order, got a judge to put a restraining order against him. And so now Nancy Mace and Paulina Luna are all they're saying, hey, why, we didn't censor her, Plackett, because you guys didn't want the Democrats to censor Mills. So apparently there was some deal made where they said, well, we won't censor anybody to protect our assets, our party assets, I guess.
It's because the best of us are not representing us.
That's correct. That's correct.
You don't make those deals. That's ridiculous. Not in Trump 2.0.
Yeah, but that's that's just the way it works right now. That's the way it's worked for a very long time. Drain the swamp, huh? Come on. So we're gonna wait and see. Here is a slightly different take from Sundance over at the Conservative Treehouse, and I thought this is just a different take, thinking that this whole Epstein saga is a shiny thing and it's a big distraction. He says the House version of the Thomas Massie Pay Attention to Me bill, telling the DOJ to release the information about Epstein unless it contains material related to national security investigations, has now passed the Senate by unanimous consent and will now head to President Trump's desk for a signature. Trump will sign it. The Epstein shiny thing law will go into effect, and the politicians will continue arguing about it and trying to attack the White House because they put the perpetual argument component into the bill. If the Attorney General makes a determination, it's only a 6-page bill,
right?
Which is, again, certainly welcome, better than 1,000 pages. If the Attorney General makes a determination that covered information may not be declassified and made available in a manner that protects the national security of the United States, including methods or sources related to national security. The Attorney General shall release an unclassified summary for each of the redacted or withheld classified information. Again, that right there is what we talked about earlier. Is this issue going to go away? If you're going to leave anything on the cutting room floor or redact it, people are never going to be satisfied. He says, as you can see from the highlighted qualifiers above, those of you who enjoy the bread and circus distractions provided by the D.C. uniparty apparatus will have at least another year to follow this story. Have fun with it. Meanwhile, Congress cannot find time to codify any executive orders that might save taxpayer money, secure the border, protect elections, tighten up immigration laws, or expel criminal aliens. But thanks to Ron DeSantis' biggest supporter, Thomas Massie, you'll always have Epstein. So obviously, Massie is not a popular guy to the purveyor of the last refuge here, or the conservative treehouse. He's not a Massie fan, but I did think this was a different point of view, and I think we should all be cognizant of it, just in terms of, this is a giant distraction in terms of, he's right. What have they codified?
Yeah.
Right? The filibuster's still a thing. We've got elections coming up in 12 months. We still have mail-in ballots. There's a ton of stuff that needs to be done that hasn't gotten done, but now they've done this. So, and I'm glad, and I hope all of the Epstein files come out. I hope you can put this thing to bed. I hope there are prosecutions. I hope all of that stuff happens. But the longer you wait, and now you've got reports. I hate to be negative, but you've got reports that this judge is going to find a way to dismiss the Comey indictment because of potential poison pills that were put in the indictment, where the grand jury wasn't shown the completed indictment. They were only shown a draft of the indictment, and so now the judge may throw the whole thing out. You'll never convince me that wasn't done intentionally to sabotage and save James Comey, because you remember Lindsay Halligan came in at the last minute. They fired somebody that didn't want to bring the indictment, and so she comes in at the last minute before the statute of limitations runs out to charge Comey. You talk about voter demoralization. That's going to totally demoralize your voting base. There's just so many things that need to be done between now and Election Day.
Yeah, and Massie represents somebody that I think it's good that there are folks like him in Congress. The same reason I think it's good that Marjorie Taylor Greene is there. I respect their voice. I think they're heavy on theatrics and outrage as opposed to policy, really. But I think this gets back to what frustrates Trump about this whole situation, is that it's a distraction from all of the good things that are going on right now. And I don't mean to be rose-colored glasses only type about these things. However, I'm still watching this laundry list and all of these bullet points of things that are improving in my country right now because of this administration in just a pretty short period of time, with border security, with costs, with all the things that we've talked about many times before, with inflation, with all of that. And this is a frustrating distraction, but it is important because
yes, it is.
There are some really, really sick individuals and predators that need to be held accountable, and that need to do some perp walks.
Yeah, exactly. And it understandably, like I get the frustration too, but understandably, the idea to just say move on from pedophiles that run your government,
right,
because inflation's better.
Yeah,
couldn't look myself in the mirror. Sorry. And that's the way most Americans feel about it. And I hope that the Trump administration has gotten the message. But specifically Pam Bondi has got to get the message.
And hopefully he's mad too, because he is innocent and didn't do anything wrong and will be completely exonerated as far as his involvement. Just because he went there doesn't mean he did anything wrong. And I think he's just mad about the fact that I've said I have nothing to hide. Yeah. We're going to release it. Let's release it. They certainly didn't do it during Sleepy Joe's administration.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to do the Mar-a-Lago raid and all of that other stuff if you have incriminating evidence that Trump and Epstein, were raping kids. You don't get all of that other lawfare if you already had that smoking gun. And I think that's a logical place to be. I think the party, I think the big GOP party apparatus, though, and the uniparty in general, is, they're the ones that are trying to cover up for people who are working behind the scenes, people's names that you don't know, but they've got a lot of money. I think that's the most logical conclusion. And now the Democrats, they're implicated in this. The stuff's going to come out. But again, what Refuge is saying here is we've got this issue for the next year. This is not going to be the end because of the language, because of the redactions. They're basically he's saying, look, they're going to release stuff, but it's going to be redacted, and the Democrats are going to have a political horse for the next year on this issue. Well, I hope he's wrong.
I do too. There are some big things that can potentially some big things that have already come out and big names that have come out. I mean, we're talking royalties. We're talking
Prince Andrew,
billionaires. And folks that this could get really bad for them.
Yeah, so
I hope if they're guilty that it does.
Yeah, this is the kind of the lead of the show. We're just now getting to it, so you'll have to forgive me. But I know we're still talking about Epstein, but this was interesting. After the House passes the bill, this was Speaker Mike Johnson's comments.
All right, number 5, national security concerns. Okay, the discharge requires the Attorney General to release within 30 days, quote, classified information to the maximum extent possible. This ignores the principle that declassification should always rest, and always has rested, with the agency that originated the intelligence. Why? So that they can protect their critical sources and methods. It is incredibly dangerous to demand that officials or employees of the DOJ declassify materials that originated in other agencies, in intelligence agencies. All right? Number 5.
So there's a lot there. I mean, if letting us know everything about Epstein is somehow going to put our national security or sources and methods at risk.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about how powerful this guy was? And so in that case, when you hear, it's a hoax, and I know Trump, tries to thread the needle and say it's a Democrat hoax because they're trying to say I'm involved in it and I'm not involved again, but it's certainly not a hoax, right?
Yeah. So the full Epstein files release was voted on, yes, by 427 representatives yesterday. One lone no vote was what we started the show yesterday talking about. Rob and I did.
Who was it?
Representative Clay Higgins.
That's right.
From Louisiana, who said, look, I'm a no vote right now because this bill doesn't give any protections to alibis, family members, witnesses that were completely innocent in this, and those who brought information and whistleblowers that brought details to us that don't want, reporters hanging out at their house trying to get more information after this is over, and probably don't want their names out there. If the Senate makes an amendment to the bill, then I'll absolutely be a yes vote. Well, it went right through the Senate as well, and nothing else happened. So I don't know what's going to happen now. And I don't know what protections Representative Higgins was talking about, if there are specifics with specific people. I mean, there's thousands, hundreds and thousands of people that are potentially going to be named in this, not only as survivors, direct survivors of these decades of abuse, but their family members and all of these other witnesses that brought forth information. There's 60,000 pages of documents that have already been released.
He knew so many people, and so that's the issue. But here's the deal. I'm to the point, and I think the rest of Congress is this as well, because Clay Higgins obviously was the lone voice here. But I'm to the point now where I believe, like many others, that Epstein is the answer. The Epstein phenomenon is the answer to why so many of our politicians run on a platform that the people agree with and vote for, and then the politician comes back a year, 2 years, 3 years later with excuses as to why the will of the people can't be done. I believe he's a key answer to that question of what exactly is rotten in Denmark. And that's why I want all the information out. And I think the motivations to protect whoever might need protecting in a different scenario might be reasonable, but I think the web is so big and there is so many lies. For the American people's sake, We're either slaves or we're a free country, and we're not supposed to have two tiers of justice. And so even those people in there that don't want reporters hanging at their house, because they're just mentioned. I think to lack of a better term, the ends justify the means when it comes to how big the scandal is, multi-decade scandal that runs into who are really controlling. Like, why do our politicians not do what we say? Well, because they're not actually in control and in charge.
Right.
People like Jeffrey Epstein are.
Mm-hmm.
So a burn it all down mentality and just sort it out after the fact, I think that's the only remedy at this point. And I don't even think we're going to get that, by the way. Like, if I'm a betting man, I don't think we're getting that. But that's the only remedy, regardless of who's wrapped up in it, who's captured in it, and let people explain themselves. And here's the other deal. The idea that we're going to actually have people go to jail over this, other than Ghislaine Maxwell, I mean, I'm not super confident. I mean, I think this information can come out, and once again, you've got to have a DOJ that's willing to do it. And even if Bondi were willing to do it, how many other attorneys? You got prosecuting attorneys in Florida that are walking off the case with the big RICO grand jury down there. You had the attorneys that were refused to prosecute companies. So you've got so many people in the Department of Justice that are leftists, and that's no shocker because they're attorneys, and most attorneys are liberal progressives. But, I mean, you get to a point where you have a manpower problem as well, to where, nope, everybody's putting poison pills in, everybody's working against it. I mean, it's literally the definition of the deep state. So
it's a time to be thankful for news media outlets like ours and like so many others on the conservative movement and in general, objectively speaking, that are talking about this, and technology and podcast platforms and long-form discussion platforms that aren't a part of just mass media. Because when I think about this thing coming out, if it had come out 30 years ago, and I'm sitting at home and the only news is Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw, and Dan Rather at night for an hour. Mm-hmm. I think this would have gotten swept under the rug.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So part of me is just like, thank goodness it's 2025, and here we are having this conversation. We're seeing all of these news media outlets, smaller ones and others, talking about it. We've got videos. The receipts are so much more able to be shared and looked at objectively now than I think it ever would have been in our past when you and I were younger. Yeah. So it gives me a little bit of hope that we can get to a clear answer, and we just have to be careful not to go down rabbit holes of assumptions and just let this stuff play out.
Yeah, and I've said this for a long time. I certainly said this during the Biden administration, the auto pen administration or whatever. You're at this point where, because you have all of these independent media outlets and sources, and you've got platforms like X, you got platforms like TikTok, where you have these people going through these emails and reporting all this stuff. This information risks creating a cascading failure of confidence, and I think we're already in the midst of it, of confidence in not just Congress, not just the White House, not just the Supreme, just literally every institution you can think of, where people just are angry, they give up, or they don't vote, or they want, the young people now, want socialism instead of capitalism, or want, whatever the case may be. The longer this goes on, where we don't have real accountability, the more volatile our society is in terms of stability, in terms of, does the American government continue in its current form? Because if the system is just so corrupt where they can't even do something like as basic as declassify the Epstein files without redactions, when so many, it's a big point of concern. And if the whole goal of the Trump administration is to restore confidence in the FBI, restore confidence in the justice system, all that stuff, the ball is in their court. And if they don't do it, and somebody like Trump that was a populist candidate, was an outsider, did everything that happened, we witnessed all of the Crossfire Hurricane, they framed him for treason, we witnessed COVID, we witnessed Arctic frost, the assassination attempts, all of that stuff, and then you still don't have. And again, I'm not saying there aren't good things happening. There are 100%, but on the big questions of these guys that framed Trump for treason need to be in jail. Judge Boasberg, who signed off on spying on all those Republicans and told Verizon not to share with the congressman that he had done it. Like, why isn't he in handcuffs now, like today? And so I say all that to say, the cascading failure is real, and it can very much destroy the country in ways I don't even think the elites really can comprehend here, because if you're going to have a let them eat cake mentality, and I'm not saying that is going on all the time, but people want justice, people want real accountability, they don't want two tiers of justice. So it's actually an incredible opportunity. Yeah. It's an incredible opportunity to restore confidence.
The bar could not be started any lower than it already is, and the expectations of people based on the percentage of those that actually trust our current system or what has gone on for so long go all the way back to Obama and President Bush and others all the way back. The bar could not be any lower to start from to hit a home run for this administration to restore people's confidence, so to speak. And it's not as simple as just calling out fake news as fake news. I mean, that during the first Trump administration, we were all thankful that he was very, very vocal and very, very forward and upfront about calling fake news out. But under the Biden administration, everything just got demonstrably worse. So here we are now with a golden opportunity, as you said, to restore confidence and at least get things turning in the right direction. And, it's the opportunity is there.
So after we had the passage of the act out of the Senate, Speaker Johnson was asked this.
Any reaction to Leader Thune seeing the bill without adding amendments or changing it?
I'm deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
So do you think he may veto it? You say you spoke to the president?
I'm not saying that.
Is he supportive of it in its current form?
We both have concerns about it, so we'll see. I was standing there with the Crown Prince. We couldn't call him.
Are you frustrated in the majority leader? Are you upset?
Standing there with the Crown Prince. Now, so today in the Oval Office, obviously that's the other news that's going on. You've got Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. They're going to put more money into the U.S., and they're also getting a bunch of fighter jets. We're selling them a bunch of our military equipment. Interestingly enough, Eric.
Here we go. You need a drum roll?
Yeah, maybe. Interestingly enough, there are, and maybe this is not, well, I don't know. We've got a little time here. I think I texted both you and Rob the other day, like a series of events that were like memory hold, this happened, that happened, memory hold. Well, one of those things was the Las Vegas shooting that happened in Trump's first term, right? Where you had this guy, Paddock, who allegedly was, shooting everybody from the hotel room and everything else. And yet there's now video, and who knows if it's AI or not, but it looks real. And Mindy Robinson has done a lot of great work because she lives in Las Vegas, on exposing all of the inconsistencies, how it doesn't matter. But there's now video, or how it doesn't make sense. And there's now video of a helicopter from that night, and you can see muzzle flashes. That's not a part of the official narrative at all, that there were multiple shooters. But the conspiracy theory that I heard early on after the Las Vegas centered around the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and that part of what happened in Las Vegas, and again, this is just a theory, okay, could be wrong, but part of what was going on was there was an assassination attempt. Again, this is just total speculation, an assassination attempt against the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia that night. And obviously it didn't work. But the reason it's interesting is because you had these reports when Trump got into office, the first place he went was Saudi Arabia. and he inked a giant, with bin Salman, the crown prince, a giant military deal.
Yeah.
And then not too long after that, there were reports, Zero Hedge had the report, that bin Salman got together a lot of the royal family and put them, incapacitated them, and were holding them up at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Saudi Arabia. You can look all of this up. And he basically was shaking down a lot of the Democrat Party's funding mechanisms out of Saudi Arabia, and basically forcing these guys to basically get rid of your money, divest in this. One of the guys at the time, one of the royal family at the time, I can't remember his name, he was a huge backer of Jack Dorsey's Twitter. And there was allegations that a lot of the funding for different demonstrations or riots and that sort of thing were actually coming via Saudi Arabia. So I don't know. I think it's interesting that if the Las Vegas shooting, if there's more to the story, which I think there is, if it did involve Mohammed bin Salman, which I do believe, I'm pretty sure he was there that night in Vegas, that it had to do with Trump forging an alliance that the intel oligarchy or the deep state or other global powers were not in favor of. Because after Trump made that deal, there were sweeping changes that took place in Saudi Arabia. And so, anyway.
Way above my pay grade, brother.
I'm sorry. I just...
No, I don't mean to make light of that situation
I
either.
could be
because
totally wrong.
If you go down the road of the Las Vegas shooting map and pull up a lot of that stuff, it would leave anyone objectively scratching their heads, wondering what really happened. And you can go down any narrative assumptions and directions you could want, and the same as with any situation that's come up. I mean, if you believe the far right assassinated Charlie Kirk, you can find evidence that can take you down that road. If you think the far left assassinated Charlie Kirk, you can go down a road of evidence there. If you think the Egyptians did it, if you think Israel and the IDF did that, or TPUSA, you can go down all of these roads and listen to people talking about those things right now actively.
Yeah.
I don't think it's helpful, but the information is certainly out there, and you have to be really careful about what you.
Where do you fall down on the official narrative that Charlie was shot with a 30-06? Is that believable to you? Because I actually am now conflicted, and I'll tell you why here in just a second.
I saw the podcast with his head of security,
Sean Ryan.
And I don't know enough yet. I just know that he saw and felt the wound, and I can see where a bullet would fragment and not have an exit wound.
Yeah.
I don't believe the microphone exploding narrative, but it's like that's another rabbit hole you can go down with his microphone or his recording device exploding on him as well. It's frustrating.
I've shot a lot of deer, and I shoot a 270, which is essentially a lot like a 30-06. There's always an exit wound, at least in my knowledge. Now, I recently talked to someone who would know I just recently talked to somebody who would know about high caliber rifles and what they can do to the human body. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And I asked this person, is it possible there wasn't an exit wound? You go out in the deer woods and you shoot a deer, there's going to be an exit wound. A lot of times the exit wound is going to be a lot larger, and this person told me that in this scenario, it is in fact possible. And I still don't want to believe it, but if it wasn't for the source I was talking to, I wouldn't even consider it. But my source says that it's entirely possible, and if you go back and you actually look at the way Charlie reacted and the way he froze up and he clenched up, that it definitely looked like the bullet hit his spine, and then went down. And then he said if it hits the spine, it's possible that it turns and goes down. And so I'm still very skeptical about the official narrative surrounding Charlie Kirk, but I will say, after speaking to somebody that I believe knows about stuff like that, specifically high-powered rifles in the human body, that it is possible that the bullet did not have an exit wound. Although it is very improbable. I think it is very improbable, but it may in fact be possible. So I still have a lot of questions about the fact that we don't have any video evidence of the guy with the gun, prone, jumping off the roof. There's still a lot of other things I don't believe. But my key point about saying that a 30-06 would not leave an exit wound or would leave an exit wound, I'm backing off that a little bit. And I'm not saying it's conclusive. I'm just saying I did talk to somebody whose opinion was, no, it is possible. And the person I talked to would know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I think you have to be careful going down certain roads, and the information that we ingest and take in that can lead us down a path that we just have to be really careful about, because once you start implicating all the wrong people and countries and systems in general, if you take it too far, then then you're not able to kind of come back from that and reset a little bit. If you follow a narrative down too far, then once evidence comes out and you realize you're wrong, I think some people get into a bad position.
Well, we just need more information.
Yeah,
and the official narrative, I think it's totally reasonable that people don't believe it, and I think that absent the FBI and the government coming out and being more forthcoming and releasing more information, which they say they're not going to do, this is going to continue. Because
a message was obviously sent with that assassination. A message was sent, and whether that message came from Tyler Robinson and his furry friend that were mad and thought he was just a fascist and that's why they killed him, or whether it was a bigger issue, I hope and pray we find that out as we go through this
I agree.
trial.
It'll be, again, part of the cascading failure. Does the FBI exist to cover up crimes, or do they exist to solve them? This is the question. This is interesting. Thanksgiving's next week. It's a week from today. A week from tomorrow.
Right.
Ham is better than turkey at Thanksgiving. Do you agree with that statement, Eric Haynes?
No, sir.
I don't agree with it either.
No.
I'm not a ham person.
No, I'm not either.
Now, I mean, barbecue like a pork shoulder, something like that, but I still wouldn't do that on Thanksgiving.
I'm bigger with hams on Christmas.
Christmas ham, okay.
That's where we'll have ham one day, and then I think a prime rib or something like that. We'll smoke it.
So our Thanksgiving will be turkey. I will be smoking the turkey and a couple of briskets.
Oh, you're going brisket too. Nice.
Yeah, but that's just now tradition now. We just do the brisket on Thanksgiving, and
love it.
It's a shame. I've got this really good smoker, so it's a shame to not use it. You got to utilize it when you can. But then Christmas is more beef tenderloin or prime rib. It's going to be one of those or both, because I've got multiple family gatherings around that time.
Right.
So one is always almost prime rib, and then the other's beef tenderloin. But I make the prime rib. I'm the one that makes the prime rib. So
doggone right you are.
Sous vide is the key.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
I've got a sous vide.
You got a
sous
vide? Okay. Yeah. That's the easiest one.
Yeah.
What do you put the temperature on? Because see, like if I'm doing like steaks in the sous vide, I'm cook at like 129 degrees. But for a bigger roast, I go more like 138, 139.
Yeah, because are you going to oven finish or do a sear on a cast iron or something like that at the very end?
I finish with a torch.
Oh.
Yeah. I get like a plumber's torch. And all the the salt, the pepper, and the garlic.
You heard it here, folks. The torch.
We torch the outside of it to get it crispy. Yeah.
Does it leave any propane flavor at all? I mean, how do you avoid that?
I don't. Not really. No, it doesn't. It doesn't really. But yeah.
Sorry if that was a dumb question.
I guess it's not a dumb question because you do smell the propane, but it doesn't affect the flavor of the meat.
I use a torch to light my green egg, but I don't think I've ever used it specifically on the meat itself. So I was just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, and they make better ones. Like the one I have is not. They make one specifically for searing meat, like bigger torches.
Oh, right. Not just the ones that you do creme brulee.
Yeah, they probably.
Bigger.
Yeah, well, yeah. Mine is a plumber's torch, so it's better than a creme brulee one. But they make ones even bigger to where you can do it a lot quicker. Sear the whole thing a lot quicker. But yeah, that's kind of how we roll. But anyway, Eric, thank you. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for doing the show in
Great to
Rob's
be here,
absence. We'll be back tomorrow. Folks, shout out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, also Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard, Bail Bonds, and Sherrod Chiropractic. Can't do the show without those valued sponsors. We want to thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.